It's time to rewind, look back at my 2023 predictions and see how wrong was I. Now this year, some predictions I made about Star Citizen in 2023 were good and some were terrible, but let's not mess around. Let's first of all get into what I said about 3.18.
I don't think 3.18 is going to be live for a while. I think we're going to be in the PTU for a good while before it's even an open PTU. And I think we should hold our breath if we're expecting CIG to come back in January and suddenly everybody's playing 3.18. They've rushed this Wave 1 patch out, or the patch is out, and realistically there's a lot wrong with 3.18 as it stands. You can see the potential, and I think it's going to be a great patch for the game, but there's serious work to do to get it stable to the point that everybody can play it.
3.18 didn't end up going live until March, but it probably shouldn't have gone live then. It was a disastrous launch. So even my prediction here that it wasn't ready and it was going to take some time didn't account for the fact that we're going to get the worst launch of a patch in Star Citizen ever. Reddit threads galore, people couldn't play, it was disastrous. But hopefully we won't see a launch quite as bad as that, maybe until server meshing fully comes in. But that prediction was pretty spot on, so I'll take that. Next, let's talk about Vulkan, and this was a bit of a miss.
Gen 12 renderer is there. They're going to optimize it through the year, they've said, and then Vulkan is part of their plan. The thing to remember with this is that it's not like they've not been working on Vulkan whilst they've been working on the Gen 12 renderer. So the idea is that it shouldn't be that far behind the Gen 12 renderer. So I'm personally hoping that if we get a 3.19 maybe in March, April, maybe there'll be a very rough and ready version of Vulkan, because again, remember, they've said that in the initial version of it, you'll still have the option to choose between DirectX 11 and Vulkan, and so whether they can just chuck something in there to get us testing on, I don't know, we'll see.
Well, that was very optimistic. Hoping for Vulkan to be out in 3.19 did not pan out, and actually we didn't get it at all year. We got an update at CitizenCon. They basically said they've got it working, but there are some issues. So CIG were hoping to get this in 2023, but it was a bust. I mean, surely it has to make it in 2024, hopefully in the first half of the year. Next up, server meshing. I actually had to re-record this part of the video because they released a letter from the chairman that changed things quite significantly. Let's see what I predicted.
The basic of what we're expecting to come first is static server meshing. And when is that expecting to come? Well, the letter tells us they are tentatively aiming, with lots of caveats, for the end of the year, 2023. That is what I predicted actually before I filmed this version. I was predicting if we were absolutely, completely the luckiest people in the world, we might get basic server meshing and therefore Pyro at the end of the year. If CIG are saying we're hoping to get it at the end of the year with loads of caveats, that really means there's no chance that it's coming next year. We know that CIG, and I think you have to be probably to make games, they're so optimistic in terms of their timelines. They're driving forward, they're setting a kind of shorter deadlines maybe to try and motivate the team to get the work done. But the history of Star Citizen is that anytime they give a date, you can at least add on 6 months, sometimes even a year. So we'd have to be so lucky to get that this year. And I imagine if we do get it this year, it will be exactly the same as 3.18 in that it might be in Evocati, it might just about make it to Wave 1 if they really push to get it out towards the end of the year. But I just think you have to be smoking something to believe that CIG are really going to get this out next year, because they just don't hit their dates, which is fine, but they're just not going to do that. So
server meshing did not come out in 2023. We did get a playable version of Pyro, a demo, so to speak. That was kind of to appease us slightly, but server meshing itself was not to be seen. But my next prediction was pretty close.
I do wonder if we'll get a demo of server meshing working at CitizenCon. Obviously, we're back to a live CitizenCon, and I just wonder if they'll push to show us it working as the kind of big keynote wow factor moment that they like to do with the live shows. I wonder if we'll have that transition from Stanton over to Pyro through the jump point, and it actually be an actual transition between two servers. That could happen.
Now, it wasn't a jump between Stanton and Pyro that they showed us, but we did get a full-on server meshing replication layer demo showing us how it worked, and it was probably the highlight of CitizenCon. So that was a good prediction. My prediction about Squadron 42, again, wasn't that far off.
I think, again, similar to this year, I don't think we're going to hear much about it. I think they are working really hard on it, and I think that obviously the company's focus is, to a certain extent, or at least from the content side of things and the gameplay side of things, is Squadron 42. But I think that work will not be finished by the end of this year, and I don't think there's any chance of a release this year. I think if we're lucky again towards the end of the year, we might get some sort of teaser. We might get a bit more than we got this year. All we got really was the CitizenCon, Chris and Richard Tyra going through basically how they're reworking some of the basics of traversal and ladders and EVA, and I think that sort of work will continue throughout the year, but I don't think they're going to be ready to kind of start their massive marketing push.
So on the whole, I probably got that quite close. We didn't hit anything about Squadron 42 as we normally do, until the point where we suddenly did. At CitizenCon, CIG went big. They showed us a massive trailer, loads of information, great update on what's happening with Squadron 42, and that kind of blew everybody's minds. It's obviously taken the internet by storm. Lots of people reacting to it, and it's really exciting. I was right in that there's no release date. They're not starting a huge marketing campaign, but you never know. In the next year and a half, we could finally maybe have this in our hands. So pretty good predictions on the whole, I'd say. One of the other predictions was that Theatres of War was completely dead, and that was kind of true in that it wasn't being developed, but now they've mentioned that they maybe will start working on it again, so you never know. The saga of Theatres of War continues to rumble on. I also predicted that 3.19 might be the last patch we had, and then they basically put us on hold until we got a 4.0. That obviously did not pan out in any way. But on the whole, 2023 is hard to judge if it was a good year or not, because CitizenCon was such a big deal, such a massive kind of release of excitement and everything. That kind of dominates your memory as you look back. But for a lot of the year, it was not ideal. The 3.18 launch was horrific. 3.19 didn't really change the game, and I think even the patches we've got since then, it's been small patches, but the highlight of the year has obviously been CitizenCon. It really was a shot in the arm for anybody lacking enthusiasm. So we're hoping that the stuff they saw there will come in the next 6 months to a year. That's what they've said. They've said that they're aiming to get Pyro and server meshing in our hands in summer. I think that's very unlikely to actually happen at that date, but you'd hope by the end of the year we'd have something that looks something like the future of Star Citizen. 2 servers connected together, 2 systems connected together, inter-system gameplay, trade routes, all sorts of stuff. It hopefully will start to look something like the game that we're dreaming of.